Welcome to The Story. I'm David Molko in for Pat Doris tonight. This evening, we are taking a closer look at mental health care across our region. Now, in our series Uncommitted, we showed you the challenges at the Oregon State Hospital, how some folks facing criminal charges are waiting in jail for weeks, even months, for a bed to open up. This is also they can receive care and then be assessed to see if they can aid in their own defense. Now, that hospital so overburdened, they've begun releasing defendants early in order to open up space for others. And that is something we expect to happen monthly through the end of next year. Now, when it comes to this revolving door of sorts, it turns out it is not just Oregon. In Washington, trouble surrounding the state's mental health system mean taxpayers there could be on the hook for hundreds of millions of dollars, which makes it tonight's big story. Well, the state of Washington is in a self-described crisis, dealing with the biggest backlog in state history of mentally ill people sitting in jails. And like in Oregon, they are waiting for legally mandated medical help. These wait times setting new records, creating essentially a combination of chaos, suffering, and a growing financial toll. And as Susanna Frame from our sister station King 5 in Seattle explains, even judges say the system is failing.
Sir, let me explain my expectations in the courtroom.
Expectations You're fired.
Over the last several months,
Your Honor, the suffering here is egregious.
our cameras were rolling
I have anxiety.
as a record number of defendants deemed incompetent to stand trial filed into court.
He has now been incarcerated 4 months.
People with mental illnesses so severe they don't understand the charges against them.
It looks to me like maybe you're hearing voices today. Am I right about that? Yeah.
We are asking the court to dismiss this case.
We saw defense attorneys routinely asking judges to throw out the charges
The defense is asking the court respectfully to dismiss the charges.
because their clients are sick and languishing in jail without mental health treatment for lengths of time never seen before in the state of Washington. Alexander J. of Seattle is one of those defendants.
The amount of time that Mr. J is being required to wait is barbaric.
In April, a judge found he was incompetent to stand trial and ordered he be sent to Western State Hospital in Steilacoom to try to get stabilized. The treatment's called competency restoration. The court ruled Jay needed to be out of jail and in the hospital within 7 days. But he's been waiting behind bars for more than 7 months.
It's unbelievable. You want it to be done.
Kim Hayes is one of Jay's alleged victims. A light rail security camera captured this random attack in March as she was going to work as a trauma nurse at Harborview. Her clavicle and ribs were broken, and she thought she could have been killed.
Can you characterize or put into words what this whole experience has done to you?
It has changed my life.
Kim says the state's delays are unacceptable for everyone.
I want to move on with my life, but I would move on quicker if we, for him, that resolution of getting him into an appropriate bed, an appropriate place.
You think you could heal faster?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
In a 2015 order, federal judge Marcia Peckman ruled the state is violating the constitutional rights of some of its most vulnerable citizens, that jails are not hospitals, and the mentally ill are being warehoused while they wait for services. Peckman ordered DSHS to provide inpatient treatment within 7 days of a judge ruling the help is needed. But that hasn't happened. Despite the judge's order and millions of extra dollars spent on resources, we found the state's wait times have gotten worse, not better. State records show in 2015, the average wait time for a bed at Western was less than a month. In 2022, that wait has shot up to 4 months and longer.
Would you ever have imagined that in 2022 we'd be in this place?
Absolutely not.
ACLU's legal director, LaRon Baker, was one of the attorneys on the case that led to the 7-day timeline.
I didn't think there was a universe in which a state agency would just really renege on their obligations. It's a real human tragedy.
A year after the federal court ruling, Judge Peckman railed against the state for not doing better, writing DSHS needed to stop the procrastination and false promises. She ruled the state in contempt and leveled fines for not meeting deadlines. From 2016 to 2018, that cost DSHS $88 million. After that, a settlement agreement put the fines on hold, but they're still accumulating. Records we've compiled show if it all has to be paid, the total bill would now be more than $300 million.
I put together this database.
Doctors Brian Wablinger and Thomas Kinlan are the state's top officials overseeing Western State Hospital.
That's the total. What do you think of that?
Unbelievable.
Would you say that the state is in a crisis?
A competency crisis, for sure.
This has got to be difficult.
Oh, it's crushing. It's disheartening.
The doctors say this year the state was hit with a perfect storm, including the effects of COVID. After several shutdowns at hospital admissions, a backlog of cases are now coming through. Also, staffing is at historic lows. At Western State, about a quarter of the jobs are sitting unfilled.
I'm being subjected to solitary confinement.
And more than anything, they say there's a whopping increase in need. In the last year alone, Western saw demand for competency treatment skyrocket by 40%.
We knew ahead of time that services would be increasing over time. We knew that. What happened recently, we don't understand that. I don't think anyone expected that to happen.
DSHS is working to build new bed space. This project at Western State will add dozens of new spots next year. And they're building in Thurston and Clark counties, trying to decrease wait times for patients and decrease the likelihood of getting dragged back to court to pay the piled up fines.
We have to be fiscally mindful, and having to pay $300 million would be, that's the taxpayers' dollars. So of course it's concerning.
I am finding the department in contempt.
Judges are clearly fed up, saying the state's efforts aren't enough for defendants, taxpayers, and victims alike.
The delay imposed by the government is unconscionable, and it is inconsistent with the behavior of a civilized society. It is absolutely outrageous.
They've got to pay the price for not providing this, especially, human care to people who need it, this mental health care. The longer this process goes on, it does take away your belief in the system, and it affects so many people.
Yeah, that video there, really hard to watch. By the way, the tens of millions of dollars in fines the state has already paid have gone toward improving the system, creating what are called diversion programs to help people with mental illness before crimes are committed. But those efforts don't appear to have been enough to keep the wait times from reaching those record levels. Now, as Susanna mentioned, there is a new facility coming to Clark County. It'll serve 48 patients near Vancouver, though it is not scheduled to open until 2024. Let's talk about our homeless crisis, where today Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler unveiled the plan we first reported on late last week. The mayor outlining a vision to phase out unsanctioned camping, is calling for larger and sanctioned sites across the city. Now, this is arguably the most ambitious proposal from City Hall in years, one with a lot of questions, too, including where these, quote, campuses would be, how much it'll all cost, and who is going to pay for it. We do know the plan, at least as it stands, is to help provide access across the board to more services. Mike Benner explains.
The magnitude and the depth of the homeless crisis in our city is nothing short of a humanitarian catastrophe.
Some strong words from Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler, who on Friday revealed a new plan to tackle homelessness in the Rose City.
There's no issue more critical to Portlanders right now than addressing homelessness.
And that tall task will begin as soon as the middle of next week, when the mayor plans to introduce a handful of resolutions. The first calls for the construction of 20,000 units of affordable housing by the year 2033. The second seeks to offer more gig and itinerant work opportunities for those experiencing homelessness. And the third begins the process of prohibiting the 700 unsanctioned camps. This will be done by strongly encouraging people to move to larger scale, designated sites where they can camp, among other things.
These designated campsites will include access to hygiene, litter collection, meals, and with the county, metro, and state's partnership, will also include navigation to housing, along with critical service like mental health and substance abuse treatment services.
Mayor Wheeler will also introduce a resolution that creates a program where houseless individuals can eliminate citations and low-level offenses from their record in exchange for agreeing to mental health and substance abuse treatment. And a fifth resolution formalizes the city's request for assistance from government partners to make this all work.
We can no longer tolerate the intolerable. It's time to build, it's time to innovate, and it's time to take some risks to get our city out of this ditch.
Commissioner Dan Ryan, along with Commissioners Carmen Rubio and Mingus Mapps, appear to be endorsing the mayor's plan, while Commissioner Joanne Hardesty is stopping short of that, only saying she's intrigued by it.
I'm worried about such a big plan.
Vince Masiello watched the mayor's virtual press conference from inside council chambers. The vendor with street roots lives in the Right to Dream 2 camp near Moda Center. Masiello has concerns about the mayor's plan to open several large campsites that would each be home to anywhere between 100 and 125 people.
It's very hard to operate those, and I feel like mass campuses could be a lot more work than people are expecting.
And perhaps he's onto something, but as Mayor Ted Wheeler points out, addressing Portland's homeless crisis won't be easy.
I'm here to face our challenges head on, and I hope you are too.
I'm Mike Benner for KGW News.
All right, a step forward there. Next week, the mayor is headed to L.A. on a bit of a fact-finding mission to see how they handle their homeless crisis. Those 5 resolutions Mike mentioned there, they head to City Council next Wednesday. On a different strand of this same storyline, we want to take you outside a homeless youth center in Southwest Portland. Just a few blocks, actually, from KGW, where dozens of young people have been camping so they can be close to services. Now, this has been going on for years, so we sent our Blair Best to talk to those campers in the center. This was all before the mayor released his plan about their approach to potential solutions.
It's one of Portland's well-known homeless camps. Seen as it's been around for several years and hundreds of people pass it every day. But there's something different about those living in the tents along Southwest 13th Avenue.
I'm 20 years old.
I am 21 years old. Everyone here is under the age of 25.
And it's not just by chance. Across the street is Outside In, a resource center for homeless youth.
It's a vital resource for all of us, for our well-being.
Our model is that we will meet people where they're at.
This is Brian Sexton, who runs Outside In's youth services program.
And so there is a bit of a sense of community and a bit of sense of safety when they are so close to our services.
Many of the youth camping across the street go to Outside In for everything from food and shelter to addiction treatment and mental health services.
Knowing that many of the homeless youth across the street get services from you guys, many people may see it that Outside In is sort of enabling this camping problem.
We don't see it as enabling, more as caring for those who are experiencing homelessness in our community.
The top 2 floors are transitional housing for about 30 people. Many of those camping across the street are just waiting for a room to open up. Meanwhile, they use Outside In as their physical address.
An address for food stamp cards, bus passes. They all need a place like this to go to since they don't have a physical address.
It's counseling, it's medical treatment, it's food, it's everything that you could possibly need.
But this woman has lived in these tents for 3 months. She didn't want to be identified on camera, but says the proximity to Outside In is her saving grace.
I've achieved a job since I got here. I've been working with Outside In on getting on housing lists, and will be in a house very shortly.
The city has posted this site for removal twice in the past 6 months. But as you can see, the tents are still here. The city says due to needles and garbage that this site poses a high risk. It's also along a high crash corridor and a safe route to school, both of which fall under Mayor Ted Wheeler's emergency declarations.
I don't know why they would deem it unsafe now. They've posted us about 20-something times, and that's just in the course of 18 months.
Rebecca Howe has been here for about 2 months.
I have literally no family in this state. I have no supports. I've been on my own since I was 5 years old.
Like the others, she's working to get off the streets.
It's not like we want to be here. We don't. We want to be like every other working member of society.
It's not ideal for folks to be camping, but really it comes down to the city coming up with better long-term solutions.
Outside In is using money from Measure 110 to help grow their program. In Southwest Portland, Blair Best, KGW News.
And our thanks to Blair for her tireless reporting on this issue. Still to come on the story, a new report in the New York Times highlighting the changes ahead for communities around Mount Adams and Mount Hood. What were once predictable weather patterns have become anything but. Plus, we're going to be talking about the first snow of the season when the story continues. Welcome back. Now to a story that caught my eye this morning, one that the team here at The Story thinks is worth your time. It's a New York Times piece titled, "Life Was Built Around Snow. What Happens When It Vanishes?" The melting of the snowpack in the high Cascades has long been a predictable source of sustenance in the Pacific Northwest. But the old patterns are changing. Now, this is an intriguing read. It's built around people on both sides of the Columbia. It explains how livelihoods, communities, and cultures were founded around the premise of deep snow in the mountains. Native Americans fished the rivers. They harvested the natural berries and the roots of the land. Settlers brought along with them cattle, wheat, and new crops. And any water that didn't come from the sky, yes, it came from the spring and summer snowmelt. So this story focuses on Mount Adams and Mount Hood, weather-shaping, snow-catching mountains, the Times says, and the river valleys around them. Now, both volcanoes in seismic slumber, thank goodness for that. Hood less active around 150 years ago. Adams hasn't erupted in 1,000 years. Now, the Times notes the predictability of the seasons and the snow on their slopes has been shattered by climate change. The president of a research group called the Oregon Glaciers Institute told the Times, quote, "Those volcanoes are the water towers for the region. The wine you drink from the river valleys that are fed by glacial meltwater, the salmon in your rivers, those are all intimately linked to a system that has been in equilibrium. But now we have perturbed that system. And what he means, according to the report, is everything has just become more variable. When the snow comes, when it melts to feed the rivers, how much of the region's rain falls in torrential storms. I mean, we've seen it just over the last spring and summer, right? This report points to a season of record-setting heat and drought last year, and then this past spring was uncommonly wet and cool, triggering mold and plant diseases. Glaciers on the summits retreated last year. They were back, though, this summer, and the Times says some residents in these river valleys see days of despair, those are their words, ahead due to climate projections. Others say, quote, traditions of tenacity and adaptation will find a way. The report dives into personal stories of how climate has affected lives around both mountains. And whatever your takeaways, your feelings here, the team here thinks it is certainly worth your time. All right, let's bring in Daisy Caballero. Daisy, I mean, we knew the rain was coming. It is finally here. And of course, where there is rain, typically this time of year, there is also snow.
Yes, there definitely is, David, and especially obviously in those higher elevations. And we can thank this low pressure system for that rain, for these cooler temperatures, and of course, for that mountain snow that we're going to be breaking down. So this is what we're expecting to see for snowfall for Mount Hood specifically this weekend. So heavy rain will turn into mountain snow after midnight tonight. Obviously after those conditions dip down below freezing temperatures, which is below 32 degrees. Now we're talking about 54 to 7,700 feet in elevation are expecting to see between 3 to 5 inches of snow tonight, with an additional 4 to 10 inches of snow for Saturday. Love those numbers, and I'm hoping we see more of it as well. But this is more of a visual setup on what that is going to kind of look like. So as we're looking at 4:30 in the morning on Saturday, we actually really can see a whole bunch of that purplish, whitish color, which obviously represents that snow. And it just keeps on coming at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, a little bit later into the evening as well. And then also all the way into Sunday too. So again, but looking at our rain accumulation, this is a look at tomorrow all the way into Sunday night. But go ahead and take a look at this. Midweek all the way into a little bit closer to the weekend. We're expecting to see more of that red and purple, which signifies, well, you guys can read and kind of see that right there. But yes, taking a look at your weekend at a glance, this is what we're expecting to see. Again, showers for the majority of us here in the Portland metro area. 55 for our high, 57 for Sunday.
Oh yeah, and if you're headed to or from Central Oregon or plan to this weekend, do not get caught off guard. The snow could fall in those passes. Just ahead, we've said see you later to all that smoke, but the lingering effects could be felt, or rather tasted, for years to come. The next time you uncork or uncap your favorite Pinot, that is, we'll show you how researchers are trying to pinpoint how that haze damages the fruit of the vine when the story continues. Welcome back. It's been a struggle for some wineries throughout the Northwest over the last few summers as they dealt with ongoing smoke from wildfires. Now, crops have been damaged or lost. Some grape varietals have even carried a smoky flavor into the final product. But now researchers from OSU are trying to figure out exactly how all that pollution translates to your palate. Joe Ranieri with the story.
Wineries from all over the West Coast over the last couple of years have lost billions of dollars from smoke damage coming from wildfires. Well, it's at this winery just south of Corvallis where researchers are trying to determine what is in the smoke that is so damaging to these grapes. Researchers simulate wildfire smoke by using this Weber grill, barley as a fuel source, and some ducting equipment.
From the source, the smoke is going to plume up, fan's going to push it in. The smoke itself is going to attach itself to the skin of the grapes on here.
For the last couple of years, Cole Serrato with Oregon State University has been behind research at the Woodhull III Vineyard in Monroe.
These compounds, we would call it hydrophobic. They're not a huge fan of water, just like the skins are on the grapes. Hydrophobic, not a huge fan of water, so they connect together.
He's been trying to determine what compound in smoke that can contribute to smoke getting into grapes and wine. Serrato says they have discovered red wine is especially vulnerable to smoke from wildfires.
As they're sitting on the skin, that is where a lot of those smoke compounds are occurring. There can be some pass-through or some amount of bleed-off as we are going through the fermentation process.
They also found that not everyone has the same palate when it comes to wine.
So it's a very large variance in people. There are some people that can't taste the smoke at all. There are a lot of people that find it super intense, and then it can vary very much in between there.
Jenna Fryer is a graduate research assistant with Oregon State University. She's responsible for seeing what flavors are in the grapes.
It's a very individualistic thing, so that's something that we're trying to figure out is how much that individual preference and individual sensitivity has on their perception of these wines.
Well, they know smoke can alter the taste.
The chemistry can somewhat change the flavor of it, sometimes for the better, sometimes not, and that's another thing that we're trying to figure out as well, is that fermentation interaction between the smoke.
They also want to know what's occurring when the smoke and these grapes mix together. Near Corvallis, Joe Ranieri, KGW News.
I found smoke goes okay with a glass of Syrah. I mean, just a little bit, right? All right, keep sending your questions and comments to the story at KGW.com. We're going to finish the show right after this. Oh, I just love that music, right? I could listen to that all evening. For our Hey Help profile this week, I'm getting lost in the dancing. We're talking about the KGW Drake Great Toy Drive, a little glimpse behind the scenes there. Yes, we know we are 10 days shy of Halloween. Yes, we are shameless in our efforts to give a hand to young people in our community. Nothing wrong with that. Last year, with your help, we donated over 30,000 toys to local kids, and we are raising the bar this year. Just head to kgw.com/toy. We will send a collection kit, and you can help collect toys for local families. A special shout out tonight to Sherwood Ice Arena. Thank you for being one of the first to sign up, all for a great cause. Well, on behalf of the team here at The Story, thanks for watching. I'm David Molko saying, hey, you know what? We made it to Friday. Have a great weekend. Laurel is here now with your headlines. The news at 6:30 starts right now.